Hello, everybody, and welcome to Madden and Benz Unfiltered for this Monday. Tim Benz and Mark Madden with you, brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Meet me at Mike's just across the street from the PNC Park left field entrance and at the base of the Clemente Bridge. Get yourself a steak and a stone. Go there for their fantastic craft beer, 80 rotating taps, 500 available craft beers for you. Meet me at Mike's. Go there for the championship game weekend. Any and all hockey games, including this afternoon against Seattle, this evening against Seattle. Mark, let's start right there. What does that do for the Mark Madden workday today?
Cuts it in half. I only have to work from 2 till 4. Penguins pregame starts at 4. I am overjoyed.
Are you overjoyed at the news that Sean McDermott is now available for the Pittsburgh Steelers to hire? I am not.
I don't think they're going to hire him. I bet they don't even interview him. I think that's a bit of a quick turnaround for him, too. I think he'll want to take time and consider his options. If I were any coach that left a long-time situation and I still had a year or more left on my contract, which they invariably do, I'd just sit out of here and get paid and really think and let things open up for me and try to figure it out personally. So I don't think he's a candidate. But, boy, for McDermott, Harbaugh, Tomlin, all to leave their positions in a week, that's pretty incredible. As far as the Bills getting rid of McDermott, I get it. I'm not sure who goes in there. Do they think they're going to get Tomlin? I don't know.
That's what I was going to talk about next is, from Tomlin's point of view, and we discussed this a little bit on the podcast last night, the value, the strategy of sitting out a year versus going for a job this year and perhaps giving up even more compensation than you would next year from your own team that you're joining to your former team in Pittsburgh. That might be worth it if you're Tomlin and you get a chance to coach with Josh Allen as your quarterback, because that's when Tomlin had the most success, when he took over a team that had a ready-made franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I just don't see Tomlin coming back that quick. I mean, it's not just going to be a pregnant pause for him. It's going to be, I think, at least a year off.
The, I guess, analysis that people have about the jobs that are open this year as opposed to the jobs that are open next year, it always comes down to what quarterback is available or what quarterback can become available. Like, the Raiders, if they were to get the number 1 overall pick, or what Harbaugh's taken over with Jackson Dart. How good of a situation is that as opposed to, what Tomlin might step into next year? We don't know which teams are going to be open, but we do know this. There are franchise quarterbacks or first-round quarterback picks available to join this season.
Yeah, but why would you want to bring Tomlin in to coach a franchise quarterback? He'll just ruin him. Tomlin has a track record that's just worse than anybody when it comes to quarterbacks. I mean, he inherited Ben, and after that, he couldn't draft, develop, recycle, couldn't do anything right when it comes to quarterbacks. So why would anybody bring him in to coach a franchise quarterback? I certainly wouldn't.
For the folks out there that are still suggesting that the Steelers were, too harsh, the fan base was too harsh on Tomlin, that Rooney should have thrown the extension at him, done anything that he could to keep him for one more year. Even by Rooney's own admission, he didn't work hard to keep Tomlin. Tomlin resigned, and Rooney said, okay. He didn't try to talk him out of it. Look at McDermott, look at Harbaugh. It's about the postseason. It's about the postseason record. It's not about what you accomplish in the regular season. This is not a unique thing to Pittsburgh, as some Tomlin defenders, particularly those in the national media, are making it sound.
Tim, long story short, I don't see how anybody, not national media, not local media, not his own family, I don't see how anybody, not even the most determined of the Tomlin apologists, can think he was hard done by. He had 19 years. He won 3 playoff games in the last 15, none in the last 9. It was time for him to go. Okay, the resume, the results, at long last, well, they didn't really dictate it because there's more to the story. But the Steelers didn't lose anything by losing the Mike Tomlin that coached the last 15 years.
Do you think the contract extension angle of this had anything to do with it?
No.
No? You don't even think that Tomlin wanted it?
Wow, my feet are getting tired from tap dancing. No.
Okay. What do you think about the news that came out today about Flores getting a second interview, Weaver getting a second interview, and the fact now that McDermott is out there, how the dominoes may fall from that point forward? I wouldn't even bother interviewing McDermott. They seem to be so much alike. We always hear about how in line those two were in their thinking about football. I think you'd be getting the same thing if you got McDermott. I wouldn't even go down that path. But then again, I'm not all that interested in Flores or Weaver either.
They're both African-American, correct?
Correct.
Well, that's a factor. The Steelers want to win now, correct?
Yes.
Mike McCarthy's hat's in the ring. I think they're going to, as I said on the podcast, Tim, I do not trust them to make the right decision. These Roonies ain't those Roonies.
Oddly, for as many candidates as there are, and there are a ton, and there are so many jobs open and so many coaches who have won in the past that are available, I still find myself going through this list of candidates and more easily coming up with reasons why I don't want a guy as opposed to someone I really do want. Is there a guy that has been mentioned so far, Mark, that you really want the Steelers to hire?
I really want it to be I want it to be the quarterbacks guy, the passing game guy from the Rams, Shieldhouse.
Okay.
Because he's the only offensive name that's in the mix. I think that's what they need. I think they need an organizational reset. So that's the guy, if you let me pick, I would want it to be. As far as the guy I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be McCarthy. I don't want it to be Flores.
See, I want it to be either Kubiak with a good defensive coordinator, you can have your pick of who's out there, or I want it to be Minter with Shieldhouse. And that might sound like
Shieldhouse ain't going to come in as a coordinator. He's not going to make a lateral move to go to a worse team with no quarterback.
Well, it's not really a lateral move because he's not a coordinator now.
Yeah, but he is for their passing game, Tim. That's semantics.
Well, I mean, if Mike LaFleur doesn't get a job somewhere else, he's kind of stuck there drawing up plays on an iPad. So he might want to reconsider.
Yeah, if I were him, I would wait for a better offensive coordinator's job with a quarterback.
So you don't like the idea of a Rams stack, as people are calling it either, with Shula taking the head job and Shieldhouse taking the offensive coordinator's job?
I mean, whatever. Tim, I don't care. I just think they're going to make the wrong decision. I have no faith. If it were me, I hire Shieldhouse as the head coach, which would turn how they do things around. It would make them jump into the new offensive age at long last. That's what I want. That's the only choice they could make right now that I would really like. Anything else, I just kind of go, eh.
My Steelers spidey senses definitely went off, though, when I saw corresponding reports from Adam Schefter that the players were lobbying to keep Rodgers. And then I don't think it's a coincidence that all of a sudden that same day we heard about Mike McCarthy being interviewed. And look, I get it. They weren't always hunky-dory. They weren't always lockstep, arm in arm when they were together in Green Bay. But they had
an okay working relationship. It wasn't like, Tim, they were together, what was it, for 12 years or 13? It wasn't like World War III, or it wouldn't have lasted that long.
Yeah, and Rodgers has done nothing to say negatively or to cast a negative light on his relationship with McCarthy ever since he's been here. In fact, it's been quite the opposite.
Yeah, but I just don't want Rodgers to come back. I don't want a 43-year-old in what's supposed to be a turnaround, change of the way of doing things year. I don't want his old coach coming in to do that either. I just don't want that. And here's what I really don't want. I don't want to wait till the frickin' eve of training camp again for Rodgers, making it all about him for weeks, months, decide whether he comes back or not. I especially don't want that. How can a team looking to move forward tolerate that?
No, you're right, but I do. Looking at it from the way they look at it, not how we're talking about it, not how the fans are probably talking about it. They value being in the race for a playoff spot at any given turn, and I bet you they see established coach, established quarterback as the surest path to not have a fall off the cliff reaction to Tomlin being to him resigning.
Yeah, I would hate to see them go 4-13 and draft somebody like Drake May. What a disaster that would be.
You're preaching to the choir.
They should be embarrassed by the Patriots. The Patriots are embarrassing them. The Patriots lost Brady in 2020, Belichick in 2024, drafted Jake May, and now they have a franchise quarterback and are in the conference championship game. The Patriots are a way better franchise than the Steelers, have been for years. It's not the freaking 70s anymore. If it wasn't for Ben Roethlisberger, we'd be talking about what a total disaster this franchise has been for the best part of a half century.
Well, not just in the championship game. They're going to win that game because of what happened with Bo Nix.
Bo Nix hurt. Yeah, I agree. I would think they would. And they're going to be back in the Super Bowl inside of 6 years. where the Steelers, all they did was go 10-7 or 9-8 and lose in the wild card round.
Quick sidebar here. Not like I really feel sorry for anybody else's fan base, but I mean, like, if you're Denver and you win that game in that fashion, and then 10 minutes later you find out your quarterback's out for the AFC title game, what a kick in the nuts that must have been.
Yeah, I still think New England would have been favored. Well, that's who I would have picked in that game, even with Bo Nix. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame the Bears lost the way they did too. Well, they tied it the way they did, and then I thought, let me bounce this out there, just going off the reservation here for a second. I thought the Bears should have gone for 2 at the end to win the game.
I was thinking about that a little bit.
I mean, dude goes for it on fourth down all the time. You have the season and goal at the 2. Why not go for it?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I might be wrong about this, but didn't they stop him 3 times on fourth down in that game?
Yeah, but you do it all the time. When you do it all the time, that's when the odds pay off.
No, it did cross my mind. I was thinking about it, Mark, when I saw that. But then if you miss it and you're at home too, I mean, everybody's on your ass for the entirety of the offseason then at that point. In your first year as a coach.
And if you win, you're in the NFC Championship game. But yeah, I guess.
What about the Penguins, Mark? Let's get to them before we get to some comments here. Let's talk a little bit about their inability to win a shootout again, as now they go on the road and play out west. Seattle's struggling just about as much as they are right now, so maybe there's a win there. But it better come in regulation because they can't get it in a shootout.
What's odd is they never go to shootouts with the other goalie. It's always with shill-offs.
Yeah, right.
Like they played in 8 shootouts. 7 have involved shill-offs. They've lost 6 of those. They need to sub him out for the shootout, and they need to either tell Sid to do something different or sub him off for the shootout too. They are not going to make the playoffs because it might be too late to reverse it, even though they're currently in a playoff spot. But I don't see them like going on a long winning streak and pulling. I mean, look at Buffalo's won 15-17. They still haven't pulled away. It's too tough with the loser points. So, yeah, they're going to miss the playoffs because they're so bad at shootouts.
Well, that's the thing, Mark, is, a lot of people, when they want to go back in time and kind of do the retrospective analysis like we're talking about, okay, you missed the playoffs by 3 points and you lost 10 shootouts or whatever it is. You're like, oh, my God, if you had those additional 7 points, they would have been fine. Well, or 10 points, they would have been fine. You don't even have to do all 10. Just split it in half. It's a 50-50 proposition every time you get to a shootout anyway. You don't have to claim all 10. If you get 5, it's a different story.
I've never seen a goalie as bad in shootouts as Artur Shiloffs. And it's quite a drop from having had the best goalie ever in shootouts for years in Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't think Shiloffs knows what a poke check is. He just stands there and lets them put it through his 5-hole. He's absurdly bad, but Muse won't pull him, and Muse won't even talk about Muse said after that game, on Saturday, we think he's getting better. Really? Well, oh, you're right. He only allowed 2 for 4. That's much better.
What about Murashov coming up?
I just don't think they're going to do it.
I see. The whole thinking was you don't want to bring him up and get him shot full of holes behind a bad defense, but the defense has not been as bad as was purported to be.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If that was the plan, to develop him and keep him there and not, let him get shot full of holes behind a bad defense, but you've changed your organizational priority clearly to make the playoffs. It's become a very veteran-y approach. So why don't you bring him up if he's the best goalie in the system, which he is? Why just save one little corner of your organization for developmental, admittedly with a very important piece?
Oh, Mark, I forgot. We probably should have addressed this before when we were talking about the playoffs in the NFL. The call at the end of the game between Buffalo and Denver, the contested catch that was very similar to what we saw in the Rodgers game against Baltimore. I don't have a problem with them going with the call on the field the way that they did, with the ball being as clearly won in the end by the defensive back. But if the threshold was set way back in the regular season with Rodgers and the way he was touched down.
But it wasn't, Tim. Nobody remembers that call.
Well, they should, because it got a ton of attention.
They don't.
So how would you have ruled it?
I would have ruled the Rodgers play a fumble. I would have ruled like they did in that game Saturday, an interception. The guy came away with the ball. To me, possession was in doubt. You can't just call the microsecond he happens to be on the ground. I mean, you can, but that's not what I would do.
Well, here's the thing. People, I think, are talking about it with the right tone, but they're kind of missing the more important point, which is it's not just we don't know what a catch is in the NFL anymore. We've been saying that for 20 years now. The biggest problem that's come along in the last 2 or 3 is we don't know when the frickin' play is over. These guys refuse to blow the whistle. They're scared to death of being wrong.
Well, but that's not their fault. That's replay's fault.
Well, yeah, replay has
made the officials scared and worse.
They've turned their brains to mush. They have no reflexes or instincts anymore. They never blow the goddamn whistle, so no one knows when a play is over to begin with. That, to me, is as much of a problem as when a catch is. Part of the debate over when is a catch has to do when the play is over. When does he fall out of bounds? When does he go down in the end zone? When does he touch down? These guys are scaredy cats when it comes to blowing the whistle and ending the play.
Honestly, I refuse to get that outraged about it because I think it just gives fans a chance to be mad. If you're a Buffalo fan, what lost that game was your Superman quarterback turning the ball over 4 times. That's what lost the game.
How'd you feel about that gambling thing last week, Mark? We didn't talk about that on the podcast.
I wish they'd let me know which games were fixed.
I mean, I know that kind of college athletics is being blamed for being in bed with the gambling operations, and pro athletics are being skewered for being hypocritical about it. But the bigger problem is the pervasiveness and the ease with which you can gamble, not necessarily the sponsorship hypocrisy. That's got a lot less to do with it.
Yeah, the sponsorship hypocrisy doesn't affect things, but it is hypocrisy. Big time sports should never have gotten in bed with gambling. Never. It's just bad optics, and it makes those who violate the rules by gambling among those participants not feel as bad. They say, hey, they're making money off it. Why shouldn't I?
I also think there might have been some really bad education to the guys who were victims of this, like the players, not the victims, the perpetrators of this, actually, the players, because I don't think they understand how easy it is to get caught. They need to be told in explicit terms how this crap works and how easy it is to get caught, and use the former Pirate, the Luis Ortiz example, of spiking the ball on the first pitch, as a classic example.
Well, see, I would have done that too if I were Ortiz. I mean, that doesn't throw the game. That's just one pitch. You shouldn't be able to bet on just one pitch. You shouldn't be able to bet on anything that's not directly tied to the outcome of the game, because then an athlete can justify putting the fix in. I would have done that every first pitch to every batter until I had a mansion. Then again, those guys make enough to have a mansion in the first place.
Some of the coaches involved in this, Mark, are being excoriated, like a lack of institutional control and whatnot. But when there's so many, do you then say it's not so much on the coach individually from school to school?
I think the problem is that big-time sports are too big to fail. That there's no downturn in business because of these scandals. There just isn't. Gambling, and that's part of making gambling part of the culture too. Part of the openly attached culture is that people say, oh, it's no big deal. And it's too big to fail. Like attendance won't go down, TV ratings won't go down. It's just too big to fail. When something's too big to fail, then it becomes as corrupt as it possibly can be over the long haul. Look at the government, for heck's sake. That's a better example.
Do you remember the movie Blue Chips?
I do.
Do you remember the scene when they were like going through the entire tape to see where Tony, who was failing at TV, was gambling on the games, and how they could figure out when he blew it on purpose?
I only did it one time, Coach.
They're seeing him throw the ball the wrong way and throw it at the ref and all this crazy crap that he was doing.
Like lobbing it in the stands, and
yeah,
and they didn't notice it then.
Right, they didn't know.
Bad game
what
for
was he
Tony,
thinking on that play?
TV.
I just know that Neon Badeau had nothing to do with it, Mark, and neither did Matt Nover, because Ricky needed a new tractor. God damn it!
Neon Badeau didn't even take the Lexus, I don't think.
That's right. That's right. He didn't take the Lexus. Who was it that had the bag of money left on their porch? Oh, Anthony Hardaway. Anthony Hardaway was the other guy in that.
Right. So, yeah, Blue Chips was ahead of its time. And who was the sports writer?
Ed O'Neill.
Al Bundy.
Former Pittsburgh Steeler, Ed O'Neill. That's right.
He never actually played for the Steelers, did he?
He was in camp. He never, he was a camp tryout guy.
One would have thought that Polk High resume would have made him last longer.
This is Eric, who says the Patriots dynasty ended. They sucked for a few years. Now they're likely going to be contenders for at least another decade. Why can't the dopey football team in Pittsburgh learn from that?
Well, because they got like Cavalli, for example. Not that it's his fault, but he's exemplary of the attitude. Finishing low don't guarantee you nothing. That's sure the way to bet. Look at the quarterbacks in the conference championship games. Drafted first, drafted third, drafted 12th. Bo Nix, of course, can't play in the game. And yeah, you might not hit on that pick, but you might. And like, look at the Patriots. They drafted Mac Jones high. He sucks. They drafted Drake May. You just keep doing it. Rinse and repeat.
Jeremy says whoever the Bills hire will be better than the Steelers. Who wouldn't want to coach Josh Allen? What are your guys' thoughts? I don't think it's restricted to just the Bills. Honestly, I get what this. The Steelers are going to play this card. Just get ready for it. It's going to happen. Same thing as they did with Chuck Noll and with Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. They will act like their black and gold pixie dust will be sprinkled on the head of the first-time hire because they saw something in him that no one else had seen yet, and they identified it, and he's their guy.
Right, unless it's not a first-time hire. Unless they do go with McCarthy. Because, Tim, Art is desperate to win a playoff game. Totally desperate.
It is kind of an interesting yin and yang, isn't it, Mark? You've got the Steeler ethos of doing it the way Daddy and Granddaddy did it versus the we don't want to have a losing season thing, and they're butting heads.
I don't think anybody's butting. You mean in Art's head?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that he's self-conflicted. Yeah, that could be. But part of the problem with that Steelers organization is, like I keep saying, these Roonies ain't those Roonies, and nobody wants to tell the Emperor Art that he has no clothes.
Joe Gonzalez asks, is Tomlin similar to Bud Kilmer? Well, we had blue chips, and now we got varsity blues, so it's one to the other. Although Bud Kilmer, how many championships did Bud Kilmer win, Mark? I think he won 3 or 4, didn't he?
No, he won 3 states.
3 states, yeah, right.
But he won a whole bunch of districts.
Yeah.
So like that's what, and like I always wondered, even though he was never seen again or coached again, did he get credit for that last district championship, which Lance Harbor was the de facto coach of? And where'd all the assistant coaches go? Did they all walk with him? I mean, I don't know what happened there.
Well, we know what happened to Lance Harbor and his former girlfriend, Allie Larder. She married Billy Bob Thornton somewhere else in Texas and went on to Landman. We know that.
I like to think that's the same character.
In my head, it absolutely is. You kidding me? She's still using the whipped cream bikini trick.
And she still acts exactly like that character would all these years later.
Let's go to Johnny Knoxville. By the way, there's a new Jackass movie coming out. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, Mark.
I haven't seen any of them. I never watched. I watched like 15 minutes of an episode of Jackass. It's just not for me. But then again, that was part of the trend of marketing stupidity that got bigger and better and stupider and continues to this day as personified by the Pat McAfee show.
Tomlin knew the Fire Tomlin chants were not going to go away. He did not want to be booed or to hear Fire Tomlin at the draft.
I just don't believe that. I don't believe he's that soft. Coaches get booed in every city, every sport, every team, every league, every country.
You know what's ironic, Mark, is based on what was written at The Athletic, for a locker room that says they would run through a wall for a guy, they must think he's pretty soft because the way they were talking, they were acting like it was the media and fans' fault that Tomlin's out.
Who, the players?
Yeah.
I didn't. Where do you see that?
Well, when they were talking about how ridiculous the criticism got, and when they were talking about how...
Let me tell you something. As soft as Tomlin might be, nobody's softer than TJ Watt. Nobody. For this big gym teacher bully-looking guy, nobody's softer. No, coach, no, coach, no. I only want to play for you, Coach D. No.
Yeah, I'm wondering, how do you think the players and Tomlin himself thought about that article? I'm not criticizing DeFable for writing it. I thought it was illuminating, but like, how do you think the players reacted when all that stuff got out there?
First off, it was brilliant. It's the best example of actual Steelers reporting done in years. Breaking a story. I mean, that's unheard of in today's journalism. They just want to get their free meal and have a smooth ride. And I think the players probably didn't like it as exemplified by J.J. Watt not liking it, by proxy for his brother. But they should like it because it presented them as human. Players should want to be seen as human as opposed to being these cyborgs who just play football.
Mark says, how many times is Muse going to let his team get beat in the shootout? It's Groundhog Day over and over again. Well, if it's Groundhog Day on Martin Luther King Day, then they're not going to make the playoffs.
Well, I have a dream, Tim, that he'll sub out Shilloffs for the shootout.
He's not
by the way, that's a heck of a tongue twister. Seashells, that kind of stuff. Sub out Shilloffs for the shootout.
Yeah, I've heard it sometimes with both Joe Brand and Josh too. Like, if you get into a flurry in front of the net and you got to spit out Shilovs 1,000 times over on multiple saves in a row, that ain't easy.
Yeah, there was. Although on one of the football games, somebody talked about somebody being cut, although they put in an extra letter.
I had one doing a Robert Morris game earlier in the season where I said fighting for the puck. And guess how that came out when I was in a hurry?
I can imagine.
This is Clarity Whistler. He says, Rodgers is coming back is low-quality content. I don't know if that means us or if that means their decision. But, I mean, I just know what ESPN reported, and they are lobbying to the front office for him to come back. And I think as Mark and I and history have established.
When they say players, that means like Hayward and Watt and a couple other guys. It's not like they took a team vote and sent a representative to Art. That's the usual suspects, the prima donnas, the guys who never win anything but act like, here's what we got to do.
Calvin says, shouldn't the Steelers fan base be more upset about the shape Tomlin left this organization in? Tomlin was gifted Super Bowl caliber team when Cowher left. Fast forward out, Tomlin now leaves the organization. No QB, old players, ridiculous contracts, and needing a total rebuild. The part I'll piggyback on that, Mark, to me is if Mike Tomlin really thought that this team had a good chance to improve from 10-7 to making a playoff run next year, I don't think he would have resigned. I don't think he would have walked away with or without.
Yeah, he would have.
You think so, huh? Regardless?
Yes.
Bill says, watch the Steelers do the most interesting thing possible again and hire McCarthy because he's a Pittsburgh guy.
You know what? The what Alan Saunders made a good point. I hope this is the case, that maybe they're interviewing McCarthy as a courtesy to the local guy and to bounce some of the ideas moving forward off an older coach so they can compare it to what a younger coach says in the interviews.
Yeah, because I guess you could accomplish the same thing by hiring Flores. It'd just be more of a defensive mind than an offensive mind. But
Flores would be a much worse hire than McCarthy. Flores proved in Miami decisively that he couldn't be a head coach.
Oh, and boy, is there a character cleaning going on for Brian Flores? Remember, everybody was crying and gnashing teeth over why he was fired and how he was fired coming out of Miami. And then it didn't take too long before you had a lot of people who were in that building who said, you know what, the guy was a dink to work with. And now it seems, he's changed so much. His entire personality and persona and attitude has changed. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see when he becomes the coach of the Steelers, and he's coached for at least 5 years guaranteed.
Tim, I mean what I've been saying. I have no faith in them making the right hire. In fact, when they make the hire, I'll assume it's the bad one.
Steven says trade TJ for a receiver. The defense played great without him. They could trade TJ for something else and draft a receiver. Draft your future number one with DK being your number two, a la what JSN was in Seattle.
Right. I mean, like everybody talks about how they had a chance to draft Egbuka this year, didn't they?
I can't remember what pick he was, but I think that's right.
Yeah, should have got him. I mean,
as we talked about in the podcast, Mark, as we talked about, I don't know what I will never have any idea what Mike Tomlin really thought about Jackson Dart. But if he liked him and left him on the board because he wanted to go with Rodgers this year, it makes you question now if you believe what Rondé Barber said last week, which is Mike Tomlin had confided in him that this was probably going to be his last year going in. So why would Tomlin want to burn a developmental year on a somewhat raw quarterback in 2025, which was going to be his last year?
Yeah, but a lot can happen in a year. When do we just say the Steelers are an incompetent organization? And people would say, too, that, well, they finish with a winning record all the time. Okay, maybe their incompetence is having nailed themselves permanently into that spot.
You know English Premier League soccer. Are there any teams like that leap to mind to you that are barely within relegation every year, but they never make a real run at the title? Because that kind of feels like what the Steelers are.
Manchester United right now, they won all those titles back when. I think their most recent was in, 2011 maybe? I'm not sure. Over 10 years ago. And now they're like Champions League is the top 4 spots. Last year they finished 16th. I mean, they keep spending money. They keep recycling. Yeah, I mean, I would say that's the most, but actually the Steelers are worse.
So, Mark, are you opening up the show with your annual I Have a Dream speech?
No, I'm opening up the 3:00 hour.
Okay, and then you do the Penguins pregame show from 4 until 5, or are you off at
I'm off at 4. I'm off
okay.
at 4. The Penguins Network pregame starts at 4. Hockey night show at 3:30. Me and Tom from 2 till 3. I Have a Dream at 3.
Any late night viewing parties for the West Coast games?
No, I need to. I mean, you know what I thought? I thought that we tried a at Edmonton viewing party a few years back. You know, Connor McDavid versus Sid.
Yeah.
And we thought, but we did it in some place. We didn't draw very well. So, no, we don't try that no more.
So no Night Owl Club for Mark, but you can catch him this afternoon before the Pens go on 105.9 The X. You can listen to our entire Madden Monday podcast, which is up as well. You can get that at Fans First Network at Trib Live. We'll be back with you next week. We'll see where the coaching hire situation is. We'll talk about who's going to be in the Super Bowl. All that to come next week here on Madden Benz Unfiltered, brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Meet me at Mike's.